He thought she was just a maid until he saw the necklace she wore. Chapter 1. The New Maid. The sun was bright that morning, shining through the big windows of Marcus Langston's mansion in Atlanta. The light made the marble floors shine and the expensive furniture glow. Everything was quiet until a silver SUV stopped in the driveway. Marcus, a tall man in a neat blue suit, was in the hallway checking his watch. He wasn't expecting anyone. When the doorbell rang, he opened the door to see a young woman in a gray maid's uniform. She was holding an old duffel bag. "Mr. Langston?" she asked in a soft voice. She sounded a little unsure. Marcus looked at her quickly. She was in her 20s, with smooth brown skin, sharp cheekbones, and neatly tied back curly hair. Her uniform was a little too big for her. "Yes," Marcus answered. She handed him a piece of paper. "From the agency. They said you needed a live-in maid." Marcus nodded as he remembered. His last housekeeper had left, and he needed someone to keep the house in order while he worked. He read her name on the paper, Carla Reed, then stepped aside. "Come in," he said. She walked inside, glancing at the big chandelier, the paintings on the wall, and the wide staircase. She didn't smile or look nervous, she was just calm. "I'll have my assistant show you your room later," Marcus said. "Your job is simple. Clean the house, do the laundry twice a week, and don't go into my private study unless I tell you to." "Yes, sir," she said quietly. For the next few days, Marcus hardly saw her. She worked silently. The floors were always clean, the laundry neatly folded, and the kitchen stocked. But somehow, Marcus never actually saw her doing these things. It was like the house stayed perfect on its own. Little things caught his attention. One night, he came home late and found a candle burning on the dining table, making the room feel warm and peaceful. Another morning, he noticed the old piano in the sitting room was polished, even though nobody had touched it in years. One day in the kitchen, Marcus found her standing by the window, her face turned toward the sunlight. She looked peaceful, almost lost in thought. When she saw him, she quickly began washing dishes. He wanted to ask her what she was thinking, but he didn't. Still, he began to watch her more closely after that. Carla Reed seemed like an ordinary maid, quiet, polite, and almost invisible. But something about her didn't quite fit. Marcus didn't know it yet, but she carried secrets that would soon turn his world upside down. Chapter 2. Whispers in the Hall. Carla had been working in the mansion for almost 2 weeks. Every morning, she started before the sun came up, and every night she stayed until the house was quiet again. She worked neatly without noise and never complained. But the other staff had started to notice something about her. It was a Wednesday afternoon when Marcus first heard it. He was walking down the long hallway on the second floor, heading to his office. The soft sound of voices made him slow his steps. He could hear 2 of the maids talking near the laundry room. "Have you seen the way she moves?" one whispered. "It's different." "What do you mean?" the other asked. "She doesn't act like a maid. She walks like she's been trained to stand tall, like those women on TV, the rich ones. And her hands?" The first maid lowered her voice even more. "They're soft. Too soft. She's never done real cleaning before." Marcus frowned slightly but stayed quiet. "You think she's lying about who she is?" the second maid asked. "I don't know," the first one said. "But I've seen her face somewhere before. I just can't remember where. She's trouble. Mark my words." Marcus stepped back before they could see him, pretending to be busy with his phone as he walked past. He didn't say anything, but the conversation stayed in his head. That night, while eating dinner alone in the dining room, Marcus thought about what he'd overheard. He had to admit, there was something different about Carla. She moved with a calm grace, like she belonged somewhere else. Even the way she spoke was careful, her words chosen slowly. The next day he decided to observe her more. From his study window, he saw her in the garden, cutting flowers for the vases. She wasn't rushing like most people would when working. Instead, she moved slowly, touching each flower as if it was special. She carried the vase back inside with the kind of balance you'd see at a formal event, not while doing house chores. Later, Marcus passed her in the hallway. She greeted him politely, her eyes meeting his for just a second before she looked down again. He caught a faint, unreadable expression on her face, not fear, not happiness, something else. That evening, when most of the staff had gone home, Marcus walked into the kitchen. The maid was cleaning the counters. He noticed her hands, the same thing the maid had mentioned. They were smooth with neatly trimmed nails, no cuts or calluses. "You've done this work before?" he asked suddenly. She looked up, a little surprised. "Yes, sir. I've cleaned before." Her answer was short, but her eyes seemed to say more. Marcus wanted to ask another question, but something in her calm expression made him stop. When he left the kitchen, he found himself thinking about her again. She didn't act like a maid. She didn't even seem to belong in this house. And now, someone claimed they had seen her face before. Marcus didn't believe in gossip, but for the first time he felt a small spark of curiosity about the quiet young woman named Carla Reed. Chapter 3, The Silver Glimpse. It was a quiet Friday morning in the mansion. Marcus was in the living room, sitting on the couch with his laptop open, reading emails. The only sound was the faint hum of the vacuum cleaner somewhere down the hallway. Carla appeared a few minutes later, moving carefully as she dusted the bookshelves. She didn't seem to notice Marcus watching her. Her movements were slow and careful, like each object she touched was valuable. Marcus glanced back at his screen, but his attention kept drifting toward her. She was wearing her usual plain gray uniform and flat shoes, her hair tied neatly at the back. As she stepped toward the coffee table, bending slightly to wipe its surface, something small slipped from the pocket of her uniform and fell to the carpet with a soft thud. Marcus's eyes caught the brief glint of light. It was silver, round, and no bigger than a coin, but it wasn't just any piece of metal. Even from where he sat, he could tell it was something special. Carla froze for half a second. Her eyes darted toward the object. She quickly bent down, scooped it up, and shoved it back into her pocket. Her hand lingered there for a moment, almost as if she was making sure it was safe. "Everything all right?" Marcus asked casually, closing his laptop halfway. "Yes, sir," she replied without looking at him. Her voice was calm, but he noticed her shoulders stiffen. "What was that you dropped?" he asked. Just something I carry with me," she said quickly, moving to another part of the room and avoiding his gaze. Marcus didn't push further, but his mind was already turning. The way she had grabbed it, the speed, the grip, the way her fingers curled protectively around it, told him it wasn't an ordinary trinket. He tried to picture it again. It looked like a small locket, the kind people kept close to their hearts. The silver was old, not shiny and new. It had that soft glow that came from years of being handled carefully. He leaned back on the couch, pretending to scroll through his phone, but his thoughts stayed on that flash of silver. Why did she carry something like that in her pocket while cleaning? Why hide it so quickly? And why did it look so expensive when she dressed and acted like she owned almost nothing? Marcus didn't have answers yet. But one thing was certain. Carla Reed wasn't just the quiet maid she seemed to be. Chapter 4. The necklace appears. Rain tapped softly against the tall windows of the study. The sky outside was dark and heavy, and the sound of distant thunder rolled through the air. Marcus was sitting at his desk, reviewing some contracts. The warm yellow glow of the desk lamp was the only light in the room. A quiet knock came at the door. "Come in," Marcus said without looking up. The door opened and Carla stepped inside. She carried a small tray with a steaming cup of coffee. She was wearing her usual uniform, but today she had a loose sweater over it. The sweater looked a little worn, but it made her seem warmer, softer than usual. "I thought you might need this," she said gently, placing the coffee on the desk. Marcus nodded. "Thank you." She turned to leave, but as she did, she leaned slightly to adjust the tray on her arm. The neck of her sweater slipped just enough for Marcus to see something glint against her skin. A necklace. Not just any necklace, a silver chain with a small crest hanging from it. The design was detailed and old, with tiny patterns carved into the metal. Even though he had only seen it for a second, Marcus's heart gave a small jolt. He knew that crest. It wasn't something you could buy in a regular store. That symbol belonged to a wealthy family he had read about in the news years ago, the West family. They were old money, owners of estates, businesses, and a long history in Georgia. And they had a daughter. A daughter who had gone missing in a mysterious fire almost 15 years ago. Marcus stared for a moment, his mind turning quickly. The mace, however, had already pulled her sweater back into place, covering the necklace completely. She didn't notice the way his eyes followed her. "You wear jewelry while cleaning?" Marcus asked casually, trying to keep his voice light. Carla paused at the door, her hand tightening on the tray. "It's just something I always keep on me," she said without turning around. Marcus leaned back in his chair, pretending to sip the coffee. "It looks old." "It was my mother's," she said quickly. Then, without giving him another chance to ask anything, she stepped out of the study and closed the door. Marcus sat still for a long moment. The rain outside seemed louder now. He wasn't sure how a maid from the agency could own something like that, a rare necklace tied to a family whose missing daughter had been the talk of the city. He didn't have proof. Not yet. But deep down he knew this wasn't just a coincidence. Somewhere between the quiet maid he had hired and the mystery of that silver crest, there was a story he wasn't supposed to find out. And Marcus Langston intended to find it. Chapter 5. The Confrontation. The rain from the afternoon had turned into a full storm by nightfall. Lightning flashed outside the mansion's windows, followed by deep rumbles of thunder. The air felt heavy, as if the weather itself was holding its breath. Marcus had been waiting. He had spent the whole day thinking about the necklace, that silver crest, and the missing West family daughter. He couldn't let it go. The connection was too strong to ignore. When he finally saw Carla in the hallway, carrying a basket of laundry toward the stairs, he stepped in front of her. "We need to talk," he said firmly. She froze for a moment, her eyes flicking up to meet his. "About what?" "The necklace," Marcus said. "The one you keep under your sweater." Her body stiffened. "It's just a necklace," she said quickly, trying to step past him. Marcus didn't move. "It's not just a necklace. I know that crest. It belongs to the West family. Why do you have it?" Her jaw tightened. "It was a gift from my mother. That's all you need to know." "That's not all I need to know," Marcus replied, his voice low but sharp. "You don't just find something like that. Were you Carla? Really?" Her hand gripped the laundry basket harder, her knuckles turning white. For the first time since she arrived, Marcus saw something break through her calm mask: fear. Real fear. "I'm not having this conversation," she said suddenly, stepping back. Her voice shook just enough for him to hear it. "My past is my business. You hired me to clean, not to tell you my life story." Before Marcus could say anything else, she pushed past him and walked quickly down the hall. Her footsteps were faster than usual, almost like she was running from something. Marcus stood there watching her go. That fear in her eyes told him she was hiding more than just a personal secret. It was something dangerous. That night, long after the storm had quieted, the mace stood by her bedroom window. The moonlight touched her face, and she held the silver necklace tightly in her hand. Her voice was a whisper, almost lost in the sound of the wind. "They can't know I'm alive yet." She closed the curtains and stepped back into the shadows, as if the darkness could protect her. Chapter 6. Shadows from the Past. The night was quiet inside the mansion, but Carla's dreams were not. In her mind, she was a little girl again, no more than 8 years old, running through the wide marble hallways of the West family estate. The ceilings were tall, the chandeliers glittered, and every room smelled faintly of roses. Her parents' laughter echoed faintly from the grand dining room as servants hurried to prepare dinner. Her mother bent down, adjusting a silver necklace around Themisa's small neck. "One day you'll understand what this means," she had said with a gentle smile. But the warmth of that memory quickly shifted. Smoke. Thick, choking smoke. Screams. The fire had started suddenly, the bright flames racing across the walls like they were alive. She remembered her father shouting her name, her mother's arms pushing her toward the back staircase. Then, darkness. When she woke, the estate was gone. The news had said her parents died in the fire. And the little girl everyone knew as the West family's daughter was declared missing, presumed dead. She never corrected them. The dream ended and Carla woke with a start. Her chest was tight, her hands clutching the necklace like it was the only thing keeping her in the present. The next day Marcus was in his study working by the window. The rain had stopped and the street outside was quiet. But something caught his attention. A black SUV parked just far enough away to look like it belonged to a neighbor, yet close enough for someone inside to see the front of his mansion. It stayed there for nearly an hour before finally driving away. The next afternoon he saw it again. Same car. Same spot. At first, Marcus thought it was just a coincidence. But by the third day his gut told him otherwise. Someone was watching the house. That evening, while walking past the kitchen, he saw Carla at the sink. For a moment he almost told her about the SUV. But then he noticed something. She was staring out the window, her face pale, her hands frozen in the dishwater. Her eyes were locked on something outside. Marcus followed her gaze. The black SUV was there again, idling in the distance. When she noticed Marcus beside her, she quickly turned back to the dishes, pretending she hadn't seen it. But Marcus had caught the flicker of fear in her eyes, the same fear he'd seen when they talked about the necklace. He didn't say anything, but his mind was racing. Whoever was in that SUV, they weren't watching him. They were watching Carla. Chapter 7: Unmasking the Heiress. Marcus couldn't ignore the black SUV anymore. It wasn't just curiosity now, it was a threat. Whoever was inside knew exactly where to park, how long to stay, and when to leave. And Carla, or rather the woman he thought was Carla, was at the center of it. That evening, after she had gone to her room, Marcus made a phone call. "I need you to find out everything you can about a woman named Carla Reed," he told the man on the other end of the line. Fast and discreet. The man was Joseph Lane, a private investigator Marcus had used before. If anyone could dig up the truth, it was him. 2 days later, Joseph called back. His voice was low, almost urgent. "Marcus, I don't know who you think this woman is, but she's not Carla Reed. That name doesn't even exist in any official records before 3 years ago." Marcus sat back in his chair, his pulse quickening. "Then who is she?" There was a pause. Then Joseph said, "Her real name is Amara West." Marcus felt the name hit him like a punch. West. She's the only daughter of Daniel and Evelyn West, the couple who died in that estate fire 15 years ago. The one that was all over the news. Marcus's mind flashed back to the silver crest on the necklace. He had been right. Joseph continued, "After her parents died, the estate was taken over by her uncle, Richard West. But there were rumors the fire wasn't an accident. Some said it was planned so he could inherit everything. Amara was declared dead in the fire, but clearly, she wasn't." Marcus rubbed his forehead, taking it all in. Why would she hide for so long? "I can't say for sure," Joseph replied. "But if her uncle really was behind the fire and he thinks she's dead, she's safer that way. If he finds out she's alive, her life will be in serious danger." Marcus looked out the window. The black SUV was there again, sitting silently in the distance. A cold chill went through him. "Someone already knows," he said quietly. That night, Marcus passed Carla, no Amara, in the hallway. She smiled politely, completely unaware that he now knew who she truly was. For a moment he almost told her everything. But then he stopped himself. She panicked, she might run. And if she ran, whoever was watching her might catch her. For now, the safest thing was to keep the truth to himself, and watch her closely. Because Amara West's past wasn't just coming back. It was already here. Chapter 8: The Betrayal. The mansion was unusually busy that afternoon. Rain had returned, drumming steadily against the windows, and the staff moved quickly to finish their tasks before nightfall. Carla was in the library, dusting the tall shelves, while Marcus stood nearby, pretending to read but quietly asking her questions. His tone was light, but his eyes stayed sharp. "You've never thought about leaving Atlanta?" he asked casually. She hesitated. "I don't like to move around much. I feel safer staying in one place." "Safe," Marcus repeated as if tasting the word. "That's important." They didn't notice the figure standing quietly just outside the open door. Janice, one of the younger maids. Janice had been working at the mansion for almost 3 years. She had always admired Marcus, maybe more than she should have, and lately she'd grown jealous of the way he seemed to notice them more than anyone else. The way he talked to her. The way he looked at her. When Janice heard the word safe, her curiosity turned into suspicion. She leaned closer, catching bits of their conversation, enough to understand that Carla was hiding something big. And then Janice remembered the black SUV she had seen earlier in the week. That night, while the rest of the staff prepared to leave, Janice slipped into the laundry room, pulling out her phone. She scrolled through a contact list until she reached a number saved under unknown. Her fingers trembled slightly as she dialed. A deep voice answered. "Yes. I know where she is," Janice whispered. "The woman you're looking for, she's here. At the Langston mansion." There was silence on the other end, then the voice said, "We'll take it from here." Janice hung up, her heart racing. She told herself she had done nothing wrong, she was just evening the score. But deep down she felt a twist of guilt she couldn't shake. It was past midnight when the break-in happened. The sound of glass shattering echoed through the mansion. Marcus shot up from bed, grabbing the small gun he kept in his nightstand. Downstairs, heavy footsteps moved quickly, and the front door swung wide open. Carla woke to the noise, her heart pounding. She grabbed her sweater and ran into the hallway, almost colliding with Marcus. "Stay behind me," he said firmly. From the shadows, two figures appeared, dressed in black, masks covering their faces. One carried a crowbar, the other a pistol. "We just want the girl," one of them growled. Marcus stepped forward. "You're not getting her." The intruders moved fast. A table crashed over, glass scattered across the floor, and the mace was yanked backward by one of the masked men. She screamed, struggling, her necklace catching the light in the chaos. Suddenly, headlights flooded the driveway, Marcus's security team finally responding to the alarm. The masked men dropped the mace and bolted out the back door, disappearing into the night. When the police arrived, Carla sat trembling in the corner, clutching her necklace. Marcus scanned the staff, his eyes narrowing when he saw Janice. She wouldn't meet his gaze. He didn't have proof yet, but Marcus was already sure. Someone inside had betrayed them. Chapter 9, The Escape. The mansion was no longer safe. Marcus knew at the moment the intruders fled into the night. Whoever was after Carla had gotten too close, and if they tried once they would try again. By dawn he had already made his decision. "We're leaving," Marcus told her, his tone leaving no room for argument. Deme sat at the edge of her bed, clutching her sweater tight. "Leave? Where?" "Somewhere they won't find you. Not tonight, not tomorrow. We'll take the back roads. No one will see us go." Her eyes searched his face. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus hesitated. "Because someone's trying to kill you, and I have a feeling you're not telling me the whole story." She looked down, silent. By mid-afternoon, the skies had turned gray again. Marcus had packed a small duffel bag, cash, water, and a few clothes for her. They left through the garage, the black SUV still nowhere in sight. He drove fast but careful, avoiding the main streets and using winding back roads through the countryside. Carla sat quietly in the passenger seat, staring out the window. For miles, neither of them spoke. But when the road dipped into a long stretch of pine trees, she finally broke the silence. "My name isn't Carla," she said softly. Marcus didn't react, he already knew. She took a deep breath. "It's Amara. Amara West." Marcus kept his eyes on the road, but his grip on the steering wheel tightened. "I was 8 when the fire happened," she continued. "My parents, they didn't make it. But before the smoke took everything, my mother pulled this off her neck." She held up the silver necklace, the crest catching the dim light. "She told me never to lose it. She said it was proof. Proof that everything they built was meant for me." Marcus glanced at her. "Your inheritance." She nodded. "After the fire, my uncle took over. He told everyone I was dead. I stayed hidden, moving from place to place, working under fake names. I was waiting for the right time to come back. The right time to take back what's mine." Her voice trembled on the last words, but her eyes were fierce. "Why now?" Marcus asked quietly. "I don't know," she admitted. "But the fact they found me means it's time. I can't keep running forever." Marcus drove on, the road stretching endlessly ahead. He didn't say it aloud, but he knew the truth. Once they made their move, there was no turning back. The fight for Amara West's life, and her family's legacy, had already begun. Chapter 10, The Reckoning. 2 weeks later, Amara West stood in front of the Fulton County Courthouse in downtown Atlanta. The sky above was clear for the first time in days, sunlight bouncing off the tall glass buildings. She wore a plain black dress, but the silver necklace glinted proudly against her skin. Beside her, Marcus stood with his arms crossed, his sharp suit giving him the look of someone ready for a fight. This was the day. Inside the courthouse, Marcus's lawyer laid out everything they had uncovered: financial records, false property transfers, and the final piece of proof: the West family crest on Amara's necklace, with an engraving that matched documents hidden in a bank vault. It was undeniable. The fire had been no accident. It had been set by her uncle's men, so he could take over the family estate and fortune. The black SUV? It belonged to one of his hired watchers, tasked with making sure Amara never resurfaced. By the time the hearing was over, the judge's ruling was clear. The West estate and its fortune were to be returned to its rightful heir, Amara West. Her uncle was led away in handcuffs, his face pale with shock. That night, back at Marcus's place, Amara sat at the kitchen table, staring at a pile of legal papers, bank documents, and property deeds now bearing her name. "You did it," Marcus said. "We did it," she corrected with a small smile. But even as the victory settled over her, there was a heaviness in her chest. "Marcus, I can't stay here. Not for long. Taking my name back is one thing, staying alive is another." He didn't argue. He understood. The next morning, Amara packed a single bag. She wore jeans, a simple shirt, and the necklace, always the necklace. Marcus walked her to the car, his eyes searching hers. "Where will you go?" he asked. She gave a small, knowing smile. "Somewhere they won't expect. Somewhere I can disappear, until I'm ready again." Hours later, as the sun began to set, Amara walked alone down a quiet street in a new city, blending into the crowd. She didn't look back. But across the street, hidden in the shadow of an alleyway, a man stood watching her. His face was hidden, but his gaze never left her. As she turned the corner and vanished from sight, his voice was a low whisper only the wind could carry. "This isn't over."